This video, or what I'm about to share, is something that I have definitely been guided to post, and it's a little out of my comfort zone. And hello, if you are new here, my name is Ruby. I am a psychic medium, tarot reader, astrologer, and priestess. And I'm going to be sharing a little bit about some of my personal spiritual journey and how it has unfolded over the past couple months, and how I feel it is correlating to some collective shifts we are moving through at a planetary level. So I don't even really know where to begin, but I guess I'll start with Mary Magdalene. So if you've been following my YouTube content for a while, you know that I'm really closely connected to Mary Magdalene. That Mary Magdalene is my primary guide, she is my patroness. But I never thought I would be sharing Mary Magdalene outside of, maybe here and there, just sharing my personal journey with those of you that follow me on YouTube. But a couple months ago, maybe in the end of May, I posted a video on my personal TikTok about Christ consciousness. And again, this wasn't something that I was doing for work, and it wasn't something I was doing to really get any sort of response at all. I didn't think anybody would watch it. And it had a really overwhelming response to it. Of course, there were people that didn't like what I had to say because the teachings of Christ in their uncorrupted essence are actually very contrary to what mainstream religion teaches. But even more than that, there was so much positive response to that video. People asking me to share more, people DMing me, emailing me, letting know that the true teachings of Christ that I was sharing were changing their lives and healing their own connection to God because of some of the religious indoctrination that they grew up in or they had experienced. And so I just kept sharing about Mary Magdalene and the true teachings of Yeshua and the true teachings of Christ consciousness on my TikTok. It went from being just like a personal TikTok that I just, uploaded videos to every now and then when I was bored, to an extension of my work as a psychic and a tarot reader. And the more I have shared on that platform, the more my own journey with Christ consciousness has evolved. And it has become very clear to me that I didn't start talking about Christ consciousness randomly. When I made that initial video, it just dropped into my system and I shared it, the way really all my social media content is created. I really don't put much forethought into what I share. I just opened the channel. But there was a reason why it was happening at the time that it was happening. And as I have followed the intuitive breadcrumbs of the universe, it has become apparently clear that the wisdom teachings of Yeshua, the Christ, and Mary Magdalene are coming into the forefront of our consciousness for a reason. And that reason is to evolve the collective consciousness to a more heart-based way of being. Now, why is this video out of my comfort zone? Well, I have always felt very comfortable in my role as a psychic medium and a tarot reader and an astrologer because the work that I do and the readings that I give are very grounded, they're very practical. My astrological background is in archetypal astrology, that is an astrological lineage that is really interwoven with the principles of transpersonal psychology. I weave the work of Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung into my teachings. It has never been my my sweet spot to be like a starseed twin flame love and light reader. And when people come to me and they are looking for twin flame starseed readings, they usually get a shadow work reading. They are faced and are shown a mirror of maybe some of the work that they are avoiding by preoccupying themselves too much with those other concepts. And so, I'm making a video saying the consciousness of the planet is shifting, and I'm being guided to share and channel these teachings is a little out of my comfort zone, because I can't lean back on psychology or maybe a spirituality that is more pragmatic and grounded. I have to say, that I'm being guided by spirit solely. Now, that isn't to say that what I am teaching and sharing doesn't have a basis in, any scholarly study. If you have been watching my TikToks on these subjects, I quote scholars and theologians quite a bit. Now, some of the scholars and theologians that have maybe leanings that mirror my own are people like Cynthia Barjot, Neil Douglas Klotz, Lars Muehl, Richard Rohr, Jim Marion, that's just off the top of my head, Megan Watterson. So I'm not sharing anything that I have not felt echoes and reverberations from in other mystics and scholars. Now, a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, time is fuzzy right now, I posted a TikTok talking about the work that I do with past lives. And I knew that in posting that video, I would start booking more past life readings. But it was not something that I was doing to generate more business. My social media is a way for people that are guided to find me, but it's not really my style to, market my services or to try to orient my content so that people will book with me. But I knew that I was meant to post this TikTok about past life work so people would book with me, because people needed to book with me for their own soul work. And, I got a lot of bookings from that TikTok. And almost every booking, we were talking about someone's past life that had to do with a goddess tradition or a spiritual path that they had walked in a past life that was more embodied, more affirming of the body, and earth-based in a way. Spiritual practices that weren't divorcing us from our true nature and divorcing us from Gaia, but integrated these aspects of ourselves. And, I've been doing past life readings for a couple of years, and the past life work that I've done in the past hasn't had such a steady through line. And at times I even doubted myself, like, is this some kind of bias of mine? But all of the past life work I do is rooted in evolutionary astrology. And so all the past lives that I was pulling in were, exact to the archetypes found in my client's chart. And they also were very resonant for my client, lots of tears, lots of sharing with me how the past life I was pulling in was so resonant to what they were experiencing in their current reality in this current lifetime. And Spirit really showed me that the reason why this was unfolding the way it was unfolding in my professional work was that these souls were finding me for a reason. The past lives that they had, where they were connecting to a form of spirituality that incorporated the divine feminine and was soul-based, spirit-based, and body-affirming and earth-affirming, is because they were meant to be awakening that in this current lifetime as well. Now, I am not one to get on social media and start talking about planetary shifts or, the weekly readings that I give to my Patreon community. Again, they're very practical. It's not a lot of, 5D, whereas the consciousness of the earth moving into, that's not normally my style. But the consciousness of the earth is evolving. And it is evolving towards Christ consciousness. And there is a reason why it is not just myself, but many are waking up to past lives and to aspects of their consciousness that have primarily lied dormant or inactive in their being. And I feel that it is my work now to step out of my comfort zone and, not just use my platform to do tarot videos and tarot reviews, which, I love that. So I'm not sure that I will completely do away with that. But to also, begin to start speaking about Christ consciousness in the Mary Magdalene wisdom stream. Now, the Christ teachings, as they are currently in mainstream religion, are very distorted. The true Christ teachings are non-dual. And so we can look to other non-dual systems like tantric philosophy that originates in Hinduism and is also present in certain wisdom streams of Taoism and Buddhism, to fully understand the essence of these non-dual teachings. The other reason why Christ consciousness is imbalanced in how it is spoken about is because it has been separated from the feminine principle. The feminine principle of Christianity being symbolized in the energies of Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene. And so the Christ teachings that are coming forward and are being impressed upon my spirit and being shared with me are really a continuation of Mary Magdalene consciousness and the Mary Magdalene teachings, as much as they are about Yeshua the Christ. Mary Magdalene is the Shakti of Yeshua, the Shakti of Christ. She is the feminine consort of Christ. And we have to bring her back into the picture if we are to truly understand the Christ teachings. Now, the Christ teachings shift our consciousness. They shift our consciousness because they unite our body to our soul. Now, we are souls. We don't have a soul, we are a soul. And our soul is the piece of us that is eternal. It is the piece of us that incarnates again. It is the piece of us that is connected to Source. In Hindu philosophy, we call the soul the Atman. So, the Christ consciousness teachings are about uniting the Atman to the body and to the mind so we can live from a place of soul. And all of this takes place in the space of the heart. The heart is the bridge. So these are heart teachings and these are heart transmissions. Now, our Atman is the piece of us that is divine, right? The Atman is the drop of Brahman inside of us. What is Brahman? Brahman is the unchanging ultimate reality that we call God or Source or higher consciousness. So when we connect to Brahman, we also connect to ourself. And when we connect to ourself, we also connect to Brahman. So the more that we live from a place of soul, from a place of the Atman, the more we seed light and higher consciousness into our collective. The more we live in alignment with the frequencies of this planet. The more we ground into our power and into our inner divinity. Now, I think that there is this like a misconception in New Age teachings, which I don't consider myself New Age, but I'm called that a lot, that we are God. And I think that that's a little bit of an oversimplification. I think we are a part of God. And we contain God. And so, in that sense, yeah, we are God, but everything is God. Because separation and duality is an illusion. We are all connected to everything through the unified field. Now, is the unified field Brahman, or is Brahman the creator of the unified field? Like, I don't have answers to everything. I'm just a seeker like you are. But the point of our incarnation is to connect to our soul. And the more we connect to our soul on an individual level, the more we shift the frequency of the collective on a planetary level. Now, you don't need to do much to come to an understanding that on a planetary level, we are suffering. The state of our society is not great, to say the least. And I think sometimes people see spirituality as being self-indulgent. Like, why focus on that when there's so much work to be done, in terms of things like equality and social justice? But a true spiritual practice shifts the hive mind of the collective consciousness, I guess you could say, more so than you would think. So, sometimes New Age spirituality gets distorted and they don't do anything in the realm of social justice, or they actually have very backwards social views. There's a lot of distortion in the New Age world. So it's not that we are supposed to totally turn a blind eye to suffering to focus on our spiritual path. But the more we do the work of Christ consciousness, the more we evolve towards compassion and equality on a planetary level. And the more we do this work, the more we are motivated ourselves to ease the suffering of the collective in a way that is balanced. We aren't meant to be holy in our body or holy in our spirit. We are meant to join our body and our spirit, and that is the work of sacred union or divine union. Sacred union is a term that's thrown around a lot in alternative spiritual circles, but sacred union isn't about romantic love. Even though we can see the path of sacred union illustrated in a romantic love that is selfless and balanced. Sacred union is about uniting our inner polarities and energies. So uniting our inner masculine and feminine energies, and also uniting our body, our mind, and our spirit, our soul. And the true teachings of Christ which can be found in many mystical religions, mystical spiritual paths. They all complement each other. Give us a map or a template and how to walk this path to unity. A lot of people say God is love, and I think that that can be confusing because love in our culture is a very convoluted concept. I see God as unity, and that unity is loving. It is benevolent towards us. It is non-judgmental towards us. It is a compassionate feeling tone. But God is unity. And the more we can experience unity within, the more we can perceive the unity within the all. And sometimes perceiving unity within is just noticing the ways that we are divided and not judging or shaming ourselves for those things. So I feel at this time, on a planetary level, many of us are supposed to be waking up to Magdalene consciousness. I believe the energy of Magdalene consciousness is rising. And this will create balance, both at an individual and collective level. The divine feminine is coming in because our planet will only survive if we embrace the divine feminine. What we are seeing in our society is a distortion and a perversion of divine masculine energies. And also, we are spiritually sick. We have divorced spirit from our cultural paradigms, despite the fact that we are primarily spiritual beings. So the only way for this planet to be saved from destruction is to come into a right relationship with spirit and with the divine feminine. So I invite you to join me in this work of doing the work of your own soul path, which we can talk about in future videos. And also doing the work of seeding Christ consciousness, particularly the feminine Christ consciousness, on into this planet at this time. You know, I truly believe that we are in the second coming, that it's just now like hearkening, very much in alignment with Pluto moving into the sign of Aquarius. The second coming isn't Jesus coming down from the sky and the rapture happening. The second coming is an awakening of our Christ nature, our Christos nature, which is our spirit nature, so that the consciousness and our planet will evolve. And Mary Magdalene is coming in to help us and assist us in this process. So if you've been feeling any of this stirring inside of you, you are intuitive, you are picking up on what is happening at a planetary level. And I'm kind of stepping out of my comfort zone to share some of these transmissions and teachings. Because even though it's really tricky for my ego for so many reasons, I know that this is the work my soul came here to do. So I think I will leave that here today. And for now, even though there's so much more that I could say, But if you are interested in this type of content, this is kind of the direction that I'm feeling pulled towards. So you can subscribe to the channel or find me on my other platforms. I've been talking about this a lot on my TikTok. And we are working with Mother Mary this month on the Patreon. So that is a nice complement to what I'm sharing here. And as always, I am sending you so much love and wishing you well.